We've heard Russia kind of banging drums about we'll accept cryptocurrency, we'll accept Bitcoin. We'll see how much that really comes to fruition and whether they're not out there mining or whatever they're doing. I think the evidence is strong that they're out there mining in Siberia. But you know, um, I think that long term, sure, the foreign countries and foreign sovereigns should be putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets, and this is the game theory. This is where it comes down to game theory and who they are. And if you're talking about the United States and worried about Bitcoin being a threat to the US dollar, it's not a threat to the dollar, it might just save it.
The cryptocurrency market, particularly Bitcoin, has experienced significant fluctuations recently. After dipping below $54,000 in early September, Bitcoin surged 24%, reaching over $66,000 between September 9th and 27th. However, rising tensions in the Middle East caused the price to drop back to around $60,000. By Friday, Bitcoin recovered, surpassing $61,000 and climbing to $63,000 over the weekend, driven by a post-correction rally, which many analysts saw as an overreaction. Financial experts James Lavish and Lawrence Lepard recently discussed Bitcoin's role in the global economy with podcaster Natalie Brunell. They explored the potential collapse of the US dollar, Bitcoin's advantages in protecting individuals and nations, and its political implications. Lavish criticized the decision to seize Russian assets and treasuries, calling it a monumental mistake that signaled to other nations that the US could confiscate their assets if disagreements arose. This has led to decreased demand for US bonds and long-term treasuries, prompting countries to shift towards gold and BRICS currencies. Lavish suggested Bitcoin as a viable alternative, noting Russia's interest in accepting cryptocurrency.
Stop, you don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
The past few years of decreasing demand internationally for U.S. bonds, and especially long-term treasuries, is that we did something monumentally stupid, like monumentally dumb, when we seized and froze and seized Russian assets and treasuries. That signaled to the world that if you're not a direct ally of the United States and you do something we don't agree with, we may just take your toys away from you. We literally take your money from you. Mm-hmm. And so that just signaled to the world to be careful about owning and trusting the government, U.S. government, and long-term treasuries. It was so monumentally stupid that might have been the biggest mistake that this administration has done.
We weaponized the dollar. Yeah.
Weaponized the treasury and the dollar. Yeah, it was so dumb, and it's going to be painful. So that's one reason that these sovereigns have turned to gold and have turned to, and BRICS in my opinion, isn't trying to start their own currency. They're just trying to figure a way out of having to own U.S. treasuries in order to make energy deals and to have cross-border trade. How can we do that? Well, one of the long-term solutions, gold is not a great solution for that. Gold-backed currencies is not a great solution to that, because it's very difficult for them to determine how much gold you actually had. Can you see President Xi and Putin allowing their operatives to go into their vaults to count up their gold and to test it to make sure? No, of course that's not going to happen. So what could they do that's different? Well, they could do it with Bitcoin. And we've heard Russia kind of banging drums about we'll accept cryptocurrency, we'll accept Bitcoin. We'll see how much that really comes to fruition and whether they're not out there mining or whatever they're doing. I think the evidence is strong that they're out there mining in Siberia. But, I think that long term, sure, the foreign countries and foreign sovereigns should be putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets. And this is the game theory. This is where it comes down to game theory and who they are. And if you're talking about the United States and worried about Bitcoin being a threat to the US dollar, it's not a threat to the dollar, it might just save it. And that's the whole point.
I agree with all that, but to address your issue of what they could do to mess us up, look, Roosevelt grabbed the gold in 33, devalued the dollar by 70%, overnight, and, used that as a way to start to get out of the Depression. This is existential for them. I mean, I could very easily see the, Save the American Dollar Act, which, says that if you own gold or Bitcoin, you got to report what you own, and that the taxes on owning those are now 75 or 80%. And, and even so far as, this is why I think it's okay to buy an ETF if you don't worry about this risk. But me personally, other than my IRAs, which I can't buy Bitcoin any other way, I think self-sovereignty is so important because, just as some countries in the past have said, well, our currency is shit, we're going to grab all the gold mines and refill our coffers. It would be very easy for the United States government to pass a law saying, you know what, let's just cash out everybody who's got a Bitcoin ETF. We'll send them dollars, and that Bitcoin will now belong to the government. Right. And,
just
and that, so you don't, oh, and by the way, you can be sure that the day after that happened, Bitcoin would go up 1,000%.
Yeah.
So,
right.
it really does go to, not your keys, not your coins. Right. And do I underestimate what these people do? Absolutely not. They've effed me at every single chance they've had for the last 40 years. And, they're evil and, they're psychopathic, and yeah, they'll do it. They'll do it if they can get enough people and they can somehow justify doing it.
Lawrence Lepard highlighted that holding assets like precious metals and Bitcoin can provide a safety net in the event of a US dollar collapse, even if such a situation would be difficult. He emphasized Bitcoin's growing influence, comparing its expansion to Metcalfe's law, which states that a network's value increases with the number of its users. Lepard also acknowledged Bitcoin's political significance as a rival currency to the US dollar. While expressing cautious optimism, Lepard hopes that people will come to understand Bitcoin and reject harmful economic ideas, despite any short-term difficulties. James Lavish shares this optimism, believing that once individuals and nations grasp Bitcoin's true value, they will adopt a more favorable view. Lepard agreed, pointing out that both the internet and Bitcoin are breaking down traditional mechanisms of information control. He stressed the importance of staying vigilant during this critical economic shift. Now, let's return to the interview for more insights from James Lavish and Lawrence Lepard.
If the dollar fails, you're going to be really glad that you own things that can't be printed, silver, gold, Bitcoin. But, you're not going to really like the way the world looks, in that scenario. It's not going to be a pretty scenario. But probably what will happen is, countries will break up and new countries will emerge, and there'll be countries that, that have, rule of law and protect assets and protect citizens' rights. And, productive citizens will move there. None of us can foresee how this is going to unfold.
Right.
And I would prefer for it to unfold in a very balanced way where, as James says, the U.S. government embraces Bitcoin, puts it on its balance sheet, backs the dollar. That's all great and wonderful. The problem is, look at the jokers we've got in Washington, D.C. right now. What are the odds of that happening? It's going to take some really enlightened leadership. It's based on networking and, Metcalfe's law of how a network grows, the value grows geometrically. It's a perfect comparable. The difference is that Apple was providing a service, and this is providing a competing currency to the U.S., to the currency that the corrupt federal government has as their tool for subjugating the world and making the Nancy Pelosi's of the world rich. And so, so there's a political angle to it. But look, if we can get enough people to understand this, and if we can get young voters to reject the socialism and the Marxism and the stupid ideas that are being put forth by the left, then, there's a chance that, we could become Galt's Gulch. I say that, cautiously optimistic that's what'll happen. I don't want to go down the bad path, but I don't think ignoring the bad path is a realistic assessment of the risks.
Ultimately, I'm an optimist on all of this. And I do believe, Natalie, that Bitcoin's going to save us, and it's going to save us personally. It's going to save the nation. The path to that, there may be some pain in between. There likely will be. But I'm an optimist, and that's why we started this hedge fund. That's why we've got the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, because we believe in Bitcoin in the ecosystem, and we're investing in it. I've essentially dedicated my career to, not essentially, I have dedicated my career to it now. That's how strongly I believe in it. It'd be easier to just go on Wall Street and go do some private equity or make a bunch of money, in the fiat system, because it rewards people for, kind of brainless behavior. But this is taking personal risk, and And it's something that the further down the rabbit hole you go, the more you research it, the further you get away from the people who are around you. And so what you're feeling likely, Natalie, is that, am I crazy? Have I lost my mind that I really do believe in this? Am I just brainwashed with this Bitcoin thing? Or am I really seeing something that people around me just are not seeing? And I believe you are. And so ultimately, I'm an optimist on all of it because, everybody who does their research on Bitcoin and truly does understand it, in my experience, comes across that chasm and says, oh my God, how did I not see this before?
Yeah, I would echo James's thoughts. I mean, I obviously painted the black, scenario just because I want people to be, eyes wide open and fully protect themselves. I too am very much an optimist. I mean, the technology is going to save us. I mean, the technology of the internet is breaking down the information control structure that the powers that be have had. And we finally got people like yourself and Joe Rogan and Tucker and I mean many others who are challenging the mainstream narrative, and that's enormously powerful and is going to topple that narrative. And then if you take that to the next step, this is money, with the same set of characteristics: distributed, free, fair, etc. And I think these two things are going to save humanity. I would just suggest though that between here and there, keep your eyes wide open.
James Lavish advocates for foreign countries to add Bitcoin to their balance sheets, framing it as a game theory decision that could help protect the U.S. currency. Historical data shows an inverse relationship between Bitcoin and the U.S. dollar index, particularly over the medium to long term. After U.S. presidential elections, the dollar index typically weakens, which has boosted Bitcoin's price in the past. This trend was seen in 2012, 2016, and 2020. The upcoming U.S. election on November 5th, along with the subsequent Bitcoin halving, could influence market sentiment. Asian markets, especially China's monetary policies, play a significant role in this dynamic. The Chinese central bank's quantitative easing measures have injected capital into the financial system, driving the Hang Seng Index up by 55% since January 2024. This increase is notable, considering the index dropped from 22,700 points to 14,800 between January 2023 and January 2024. In contrast, U.S. markets remain volatile. While a short-term recession seems unlikely, the Federal Reserve's monetary policy continues to impact market. Earlier expectations for a 50 basis point rate cut at the upcoming FOMC meeting have now shifted to a 25 basis point reduction, or possibly none at all. Asian markets fueled Bitcoin's rise to nearly $64,000 overnight, but the price fell back below $63,000 when those markets closed. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a hedge against economic uncertainty and a means of protecting individual wealth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.